Denise Rotheimer, thanks for joining us on the All Night Channel. We are here. You are about to have a press conference. When you were, I should back up, about a year ago, the focus of an awful lot of media because of allegations you brought up against one of the state senators. Give us just an encapsulation of what that was about and what you are pushing for today.
At the time, I was supporting Senate Bill 402, which prohibited sexual harassment in the State Employees and State Officials and Employees Ethics Act. I disclosed a complaint I filed against Silverstein back in 2016, which had been uninvestigated for almost a year, and it turned out that there were 26 other complaints that were also uninvestigated because we had a 3-year vacancy of the Legislative Inspector General. Since my coming forward, going public, the current acting Legislative Inspector General, who's here on a temporary basis, her term expires at the end of this month in February. We still do not have a permanent Legislative Inspector General to run that office independently. And that is what I am calling for, an appointment resolution to appoint a Legislative Inspector General, which has not been done since 2008.
And just to make it real simple, if there's no Inspector General, then when one such as yourself brings an allegation of sexual misconduct, there's no one to investigate it.
My complaint against Silverstein was filed with Senate President Cullerton, and it sat on a desk. It went uninvestigated, and it wasn't until I went public that he was founded in violation of the Governmental Ethics Act for conduct unbecoming of a legislator. He was in a primary, a contested primary, and after serving nearly 20 years, he lost by 71% of the vote because the constituents in his district do not stand for that behavior.
A lot of people listening to this would say, well, wait a minute, we have the whole Me Too movement going on. We had the House Speaker's Chief of Staff last year had to resign. Former Senator Silverstein, he lost his election. One would think that this would be a cause celeb issue to bring to the table. What do you make of this reticence to be appointing a Legislative Inspector General?
The same old status quo. We still do not have a permanent Legislative Inspector General. That office is still vacant. We only have a temporary acting LIG who serves at the will of the Legislative Ethics Commission. We need to have a Legislative Inspector General appointed through a joint resolution in the House and Senate according to law to serve at the will of the people of the state of Illinois.
And would this person be independent enough, or could they be fired by the House Speaker or Senate President?
Currently, the law requires that the LIG, the Legislative Inspector General, be independent, but the Legislative Inspector General has to seek permission from the Legislative Ethics Commission, which is actually a contradiction of the law. There is a bill I will be mentioning in the press conference that will remove that requirement so that we can truly have an independent Legislative Inspector General.
Somewhat, I guess, akin to the Auditor General that operates independently and can look at people's books.
They all can, except for the Legislative Inspector General.
Have you reached out to the governor's office? Of course, he's just 1 month into his jobs, but have you had any impact talking with his people?
I feel confident that Governor Pritzker would be supportive of this effort. He was, in fact, one of the first people who stepped forward publicly and called for Silverstein's resignation.
And so political prognosticating, if you have the governor's support, what are your expectations that this might actually come to fruition?
Knowing what I know, having been dealing with the legislature since 2003, my confidence level is still at about a 0. Last year I had a bill to give complainants rights, because we as the accuser, the ones who filed the complaint, have no rights in the process. That bill was killed on the spot. We can keep bringing bills back, but until the public becomes aware of the issue and they want to truly take a stand against the corruption in the state capitol with our legislature, then we'll start to see some action. Leaving it up to the legislators is just going to be the same status quo.
And we have a huge freshman class of lawmakers that weren't here last year. Are you spending any time trying to meet with any of these freshmen to educate them on this issue?
I've been doing as much educating as I can as an activist. The House sponsor of the bill is a freshman state representative. I hope that with the support of Women Employed, who is a lobbyist organization, does help prompt some momentum on this legislation as well as the other key pieces of legislation to reform the ethics process.
And one last thing, we should just remind people, so you were you call yourself an activist, I guess. You were not a member of the legislature staff, but you were working to try to push various bills prior to this allegation against Senator Silverstein that he was trying to sexually harass you. Prior to the Silverstein incident, was there any other incidents that came to you? I mean, how prevalent do you think the culture of sexual harassment is within the Capitol arena?
I was aware of the bullying, the incompetence, and the frustrations. That's pretty typical here in Springfield with the legislature, but I never had an experience, the abuse that I suffered from Silverstein by any legislator since 2003 working on. I authored 2 bills. They passed into law unanimously. That was my 3rd bill that Silverstein worked on, and there was no comparison to what Silverstein had done to me.
All right, well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you so much.